If there's a series that sparks discussion among anime fans, is the very accurately named JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Some people find it overrated, while others find it the holy grail of shonen. Personally, I stand in the middle, but more on the side of the worshippers of Dio and his JoJos. I remember quite well what made me watch JoJo. It was when I read the list made by the Japanese government that defined the most important or the best mangas from Japan. And while I knew and liked the names I saw there, I had never heard about the entry in number 2, that being JoJo. A quick Google search after that, and I saw just how influential and big the series was, with it even gaining an exposition in the Louvre and a close sponsors with Gucci, if I'm not mistaken. That was it. I'm gonna watch this anime. And boy oh boy, did I almost regret it. To be completely honest, I found part 1 hard to watch. While it did have some good things, its plot, characters and scenes were all just meh. And now this will be my most disliked video, but gotta speak the truth. However, a friend of mine told me it got very different and much better later, and he was right. I think one of the pleasures of watching JoJo is the fact that we get to see an artist grow within the same series, which is pretty rare and magical. Think about it. When we see an artist evolve his craft, it is something that happens when he changes from one work to another. You see clearly the features of that artist that worked in his early works, but much more polished and better used in what he does next. But rarely does it happen inside the same work. Most of the times you make some mistake or you lack a certain understanding that makes it impossible to use it in a good manner, whatever it is you've learned. But in JoJo, the fact that it is structured in parts allows Hirohiko Araki to make great leaps in making his series better from part to part. And also sometimes he'll just say fuck it and ignore something previous, which does give us the Araki forgot meme, but yeah. Anyway, the series got better in part 2, with a much more interesting protagonist, better crafted scenes and better built battles. Then it got even better in part 3, especially if you, like me, are a sucker for Odyssey type stories. It is also here that stands are introduced, which is a concept that creates both a great thematic and psychological dimension to the character, but also makes the dynamic of the battles way more nuanced and exciting. However, in part 3 this aspect of the characters and their stance, along with their use in battle, were still in the beginning of Araki's development of them. It would be in part 4 that would change. Part 4 of JoJo is the part in which we finally reach what people think when they say JoJo. It increased the quality of the story and the battles, also making the stance much more significant in telling us who the characters are. After all, if stands are a manifestation of one's soul, nothing more natural than to have that stand tell us a lot about that character. Let's compare the stand Silver Chariot for part 3 with part 4's Crazy Diamond. The former is fast and deadly and has a sword. But what does that tell us about its user, Ponarif? About his personality and psychological makeup? You would have to force a pretty big explanation to justify some relationship here. Whereas Crazy Diamond tells us a lot about Josuke. It is a very strong stand with great combat capability, perfect for someone who is not shy to getting a little rough if needed, but it also has the ability of fixing and healing things and creatures, which is something that shows the kindness of Josuke, but also his altruism since he cannot heal himself, showing us how much he puts the well-being of others in front of his own. And I like part 4 very much, not only because the stands get much more important and relatable to the characters, but because of a very good use of a theme that encapsulates the main struggle of our protagonist versus our antagonist. However, precisely because of the stands and because of the overarching theme that ties the story and culminates in the battle of the protagonist versus the antagonist, I can say that part 5 is my favorite part. While part 4 is great and I might do a video on it in the future, Part 5 combines the best of Part 3, it being the Odyssey type story with a lot of travels of it in Italy, a country I dream of visiting, but also the companionship among the main group of characters. Add to that the aforementioned theme and the stance, doing it in a degree that I like more than Part 4, and you get the perfect ingredients for a spectacular anime. First, let's talk the stance, because while Part 4 does that pretty well with its main cast, Part 5 is on another level. It seems every stand in the main squad has something to say about its user. Let's take Abakio for example. We get to know 3 things about him. 1. He is a former cop, someone who always dreamed of being an officer but that grew disillusioned with the job. 2. This disillusion makes him give in to corruption, which leads to a situation that makes his partner die, a situation he wishes he could change. And 3. He is filled with guilt about this incident, not being able to forget it or get over it. And Abakio's stand Moody Blues allows him to relive something that happened to someone in the place where he activates his stand, as long as he knows when it happened. That power, that manifestation of his soul, is at the same time a very useful tool of investigation, a way of reliving an incident, and something that makes it impossible to erase and forget what's happened, since you can replay it indefinitely. And I could continue elaborating on every single member of Bucciarati's team. I especially like what Araki has done with our protagonist, Giorno Giovanna, since he is the son of both Dio and Jonathan. Yes, he has 2 fathers, but not in that sense. It's complicated, I'm not explaining this now. Anyway, and being the son of these 2 characters, his stand and personality reflect these 2 characters. But instead of elogating myself on the representation of the soul in stands, I'll go to the other topic I want to cover in this video, the overarching theme of Part 5. I think here a disclaimer is in order. If you watched Jojo and did not get the same understanding of what I'm about to say, that is no problem. The truth does exist, but I do not own it. If you watched Jojo just for the fights and the visual aesthetic, or if you got another idea from Part 5, that's awesome. Like in this video, people will have different appreciations of it, will find different meanings. Anyway, as I alluded to in the intro of this video, Part 5 for me is about truth. But as in any work, what I like the most here is how it is explored. The religious symbolism is a great aesthetical choice here. After all, as the quotes in the beginning show, the subject matter of finding truth, living in truth, is something central to traditional Christianity, and particularly Catholic philosophy and theology. And this fits the story very well. Not only are we in Italy, a very Catholic country, but our protagonist is the son of Dio, and someone who is able to heal people whose body parts are falling off, create fish out of apparently nothing, and resurrect people from the dead. In the end, our main character must face Diavolo, which is Italian for the devil, so yeah, there's that. And it is in this final confrontation that the theme of truth shines the brightest. There are other instances before that do well on exploring this theme, such as the dialogue in Abakio's death and the abandonment of the gang by Fugo. But the encounter between the gang and our main antagonist is the high point, and to understand that, we must understand Diavolo. I see a lot of dislike for this character online, mainly because people think he lacks personality and is a step back from Part 3's Dio, something I disagree with, and an even bigger step back from Part 4's Yoshikage Kira, something I agree with. However, what I'm gonna try to show here is that this character works precisely because of the little personality we get from him, and because he's meant to be less of a full-fledged character, but more of a personification of an idea. And that idea that permeates everything in Diavolo is the concealment of truth, the building of lies. After all, the devil is the father of lies. Everything in Diavolo works against the truth. A great example being he wanting to erase his daughter Trish from existence, as he did to a lot of people in the past, all to keep people from achieving the truth about him. His double personality is also an example, the existence of a completely different persona which conceals his true personality. And of course his stand, King Crimson, which erases the truth of what is happening and will happen, and allows him to fabricate a lie and put it into place. All this build-up of the personification of lying versus the ones who want to live and expose the truth culminates in the final battle for the arrow, where upon finding the real nature of the stand arrow, our characters change bodies. And in this fabricated scenario where nobody is who they truly are, Diavolo thrives. It even looks like he might be able to be the one who obtains the arrow. But when Bucciarati puts everyone back in their true places, Giorno emerges as the one with the arrow. And now he can defeat Diavolo. And the way he does it is the cherry on top. Rather than stomping him to death or perforating him, cutting his head, or anything final such as that, he just gives him an apparently simple beating. But that beating puts Diavolo in a state where he is alive, but that makes him have to relive his death in multiple agonizing ways forever. If you want so badly to live in lies, then have it your way. You will forever be inside a lie and never reach the truth about your death. Giorno's speech seals the deal, and that is it for this part. My favorite part so far in Jojo. From its aesthetical choices to the representation of stands, to this beautiful elaboration for the theme of truth, it is just fantastic. Thanks everyone for watching. If you got here, please subscribe and leave a like to help this video reach other people, or maybe send it to somebody you know who likes Jojo. I'll see you in the next one.